Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Wavelength Wednesdays. I am your host, Waveney, and it's a pleasure to be back again speaking and sharing with you. And if you're new to my video, welcome. Every week, I bring you tips and strategies that are geared towards connecting, inspiring, and influencing you to being your best in your professional life and your personal life. And so, welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay, so we're winding down April. This is the last Wednesday in the month of April, and boy oh boy, we can say what an April it has been, right? And so, if you are just tuning in, I would strongly suggest that you go and look at the other content that I created for April, the other videos. This month, I focused on thriving, how to thrive during this pandemic. And so, in the first video, I did an overview of how to thrive. In the second one, I spoke about the future of work, what I feel and think that, work would look like in the future and how to start preparing ourselves for that. And then last week, I spoke on mental health, which is a huge topic in this day and age, right? And hopefully, you would have gotten, if you looked at it, you would have gotten some tips on how to support you during that time. Yesterday, I ran into someone at the supermarket, and she said to me that she really enjoyed the mental health one. And she said, no, I'm telling people that I'm safe at home. I'm not saying I'm locked down. I'm saying I'm safe at home. I said, right. And so, like I mentioned, these videos are designed to support you in a big way. And so today I thought that I would end April by speaking about finances, right? Money. We're going to have a little chat on money. And this is, before I start this, let me preface this by saying this is not going to be a lecture on how you should be saving for a rainy day, because it's already raining, right? And I don't believe there's a saying that goes, don't ever kick a man when he's down. And I feel like bringing something to the forefront right now and saying, save for a rainy day, it's really futile. It does you no good, because we're in the middle of a crisis. You don't need somebody lecturing and telling you how you should have saved, or you should be saving more, or what you could be doing, or your spending habits, what they should have been. Because honestly, that is what we call a lag measure. It's already gone. It's history, right? And it makes no sense for you to berate yourself and on what you should have or could have done. And so I just want to put that out there, that this is not the time for that. But I want to talk about finances in a way that is practical and realistic for you at this time. There's some things that you probably are doing already, and some things that you haven't thought about doing. And so my hope is that you would gain something that would assist you. And if at any time you're viewing this and you feel like, hey, someone can benefit from this, please, please, please share the video. And so let's support each other during this time. And you know my drill from last week. If you see me fixing, it's because I can see the reflection in my glasses. I'm just trying to make it better. It's like I'm doing a little dance. Okay, so let's chat about money and finance during this COVID-19 time. So our focus should be, and this conversation isn't so much for those persons who have are not affected in terms of their jobs are not affected. They're still bringing in a paycheck. They're not on reduced hours. So this chat really, I mean, even though if you started viewing this, then by all means, please listen, because you may learn something. It may make you a bit sympathetic, and not sympathetic but empathetic to others if you haven't been that way, or it may lend another perspective that you haven't thought about. So really, I'm speaking to persons whose job has been affected, and or who are either laid off from work totally, or have lost their jobs totally, or they are on reduced hours. Okay. And so I feel during this time that our focus should be on sacrifice. Well, let's put it this way: surviving, which is the first one. Our focus is on surviving, on sacrifice, and then lastly, I put thriving. And I put thriving in there because even though things are a bit challenging and things are a bit difficult, we still need to, for me to thrive means to blossom, to bloom, to grow and develop. So that's the reason why I put the word thriving there, but also on surviving and sacrificing. And I'll get to those in a minute. So I want to introduce this conversation by telling you about a man by the name of Abraham Maslow. And he's dead now. I think he probably died in 1970, way before I was born, right? But his name was Abraham Maslow, and he was an American psychologist. And he came up with a theory known as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And be patient. I know you may be thinking, I thought this was a chat about finance. It is a chat about finance, but I want you to take this journey with me as to where I'm going with this, okay? And so he came up with this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And he came up with this because he was in a constant quest to find out what motivated humans, like what motivated us, what makes us happy. And in his quest to find this out, he came up with this concept, okay? And his Maslow, if you've never seen it, and I'll probably try and insert it in this video somewhere, or if not, I'll post it in a separate Facebook post. But he came up with the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's often displayed as a pyramid or a triangle, if you want to call it that, right? And so their hierarchy, because there's a ranking of needs for humans. And his theory is, if one, there's a foundational set of needs, right, that must be there for us to feel happy, and then there's a next and another and another and another, right? And most of the needs, the most basic needs, are at the bottom of the pyramid, right? And the more complex needs are at the top of the pyramid. And when I said the most basic needs, I don't want you to think that they're non-essential, they're not important. They are important, but they're at the base of the pyramid for a very important reason, because they are foundational, and we're going to get to that in a moment, right? And so at the base of the pyramid, and starting off at that foundational need, is physiological need. And the word physiology, it comes from having to do with the body, right? And so these needs, without them, we cannot function. We cannot function. Think about, let me just give you a little story. So think about a time when you were late getting up, or you had to be rushing out the door. For those persons who eat breakfast, it could be breakfast or lunch, right? Think about your most busy day when you didn't get to eat, right? Think about when you don't get to eat, you're rushing around, you're trying to concentrate, you may be on your job, you're trying to get something done. It's not what because you haven't eaten. There is a, for me, when I haven't eaten, I start to shake. When it gets to the point where it's really, really bad. It's like I have like the jitters. I don't know. I guess different people, it manifests, differently. But for me, I start to shake. So think about a time when you either didn't have breakfast or you didn't have lunch, you had a really busy day and you're running around and you're trying to push your body. And what is happening? One, you're either going to tell me that you fainted. Two, you started to become dizzy, or some sort of physiological um, thing is going on, activity is going on in your body, prompting you to say, hey, you need to eat, right? And this is the most basic needs. The most basic, and I'm going to tell you what they are. And I'm sure you can guess one of them is food, right? And so at the base of his pyramid is the physiological needs are air. We need to breathe, right? And clean air, because yeah, in those large countries where they have a lot of pollution, it's a big thing. So air, water, food, warmth, because our bodies have to be kept at a certain temperature, right? And rest. And you would agree that if any of these are lacking or missing, worst case scenario, we're going to die. In next best case scenario is that we need it. We need to function. And so these are what he calls physiological needs. Bear with me as I stumble on these words. So that's the base of the pyramid, and so they're essential, they're foundational. The second tier of that pyramid speaks about safety and security needs. And the need to feel safe and secure. And so you're saying, okay, Waveney, what does this have to do with the pandemic, and what does this have to do with finances? Well, it has everything to do with the finances. And back to what I opened with earlier, that right now your focus should be on surviving and sacrificing. And if you would realize that our sense of security in terms of our jobs, some of us who are on reduced hours, who are laid off, who don't have a job, that sense of security is taken away, right? And so that has been taken away. And the most important thing, and you would see it, even when we were safe at home for the last, like if I mean, everybody in every country is doing it, so it really doesn't matter where you're viewing this from. But you would realize when we were home, or if you're still home, safe at home, and I'm using the word safe at home. If you haven't looked at the video, or if you're jumping ahead, I'm not using the word lockdown or quarantine or isolate, self-isolating, or any of those terms. Okay, I'm using safe at home. So while we're safe at home, you would realize that what's on our minds is what next we're going to eat. Even the days when right now we are on relaxed days, where there are 4 days this week we can go out and shop and conduct business. Okay, but for those times that we were safe at home, and days that we had the partial curfew, the idea was to get to the supermarket to get the basic need of food met. And so this is the reason why I don't agree that this is a time to tell people about saving for a rainy day. It's a great message. It's a wonderful message, but this is not the time. Because if your sense of security, which is your job, has been taken away, right? Your job provides money, and money provides us with the avenue to get those basic needs like food and even warmth, because we need to have a place to live, right? And we need shelter, right? And you could substitute shelter in there. Actually, some on some models of the Maslow hierarchy of needs, you would see shelter down at the bottom as a foundational need. So we're gonna slot that in there. So your thing right now is, how do I survive? And especially for those persons who have children, how do I survive? How do I eat? Because that's the most important thing in the pandemic right now. Keeping yourself healthy and safe, of course, but also eating, because that's how we're gonna live. That's how we're gonna live, right? And so this is where the Maslow hierarchy of needs coming, and that is why I felt like it was so important to start off with that, so persons can understand that this is a real thing, right? Right now, it's about surviving and meeting our most basic needs, which is air, food, warmth, rest, and shelter. And so I'd like to go into some things to think about, if you haven't thought about them, and just a few ideas at the end. All right. And so the first thing is, again, the most important thing is taking care of your basic needs. That's the most important thing ever. And so that should be the focus. Okay. Now, the second thing is, a lot of countries and the governments are providing stimulus packages and plans. And so the next thing is, because you have to settle your mind, I want to insert in here that one of the things that you see the health officials and the government agencies are saying, aside from washing your hands, is keep your immune system up, keep it boosted, and that sort of thing. And keeping your immune system boosted and keeping yourself healthy is more than getting adequate rest. It's more than having something to eat. It's more than that. It's also managing your stress levels. And if you're someone whose blood pressure goes up quite easily, then this is not a very good time for you. And so you have to find ways to manage around that. And the way to manage around that, you have to keep yourself healthy. You have to keep your mind settled. And granted, it's easy for me to say, I'm not going to say don't panic, don't be scared, because it is a scary time. But also think about the fact that the whole world is going through this. And that should lend a bit of a relief for you, because this is not a particular industry that is facing this dilemma. This is not just a standalone. This is everybody. And so I would hope that people find a bit of comfort in that they're not in this alone. Okay, and so your most basic needs, and then the second one I wanna pull out is, each country, I was saying it, each country has introduced like a stimulus package, a stimulus plan. And so you need to be very familiar with what that stimulus package is. And I would hope that if you haven't signed up for it, or if you don't know about it, then make it your business after this video. You can even pause this video, because you can always come back to it. But go and find out what it entails and how it impacts you. Okay, so find out what is the process, what is the package, how much is it checks, that sort of thing. Now, if you have signed up and you know what it is, please bear in mind these checks are for your most basic needs. This is the reason why I started off with Mr. Maslow and his hierarchy of needs, because the check is just to sustain you during this time. All else can wait. All else can wait. And So the check is for your most basic needs, and that is what it's for, which is for some of us food. The majority will be food, right? And that should be your focus. Now, when you if you know the amount of the check, and I don't know in if it's the same, I believe it's the same. In my country, our government has decided there's no social security deductions gonna be taken from it. There are no taxes gonna be taken from it. And so you know already what that amount is. And so what then I would say is to budget. Yes, even with a stimulus check, you wanna budget. You wanna budget your most basic need, which is food. You wanna budget how how you're going to spend that money on food wisely. Okay, and I will get to, did I put it? I'm gonna get to the idea around food in a bit and how you could manage that a bit better. Okay, but find out what the check is and budget around it. Okay. Now, number three is banking. Now, in the for the banking institutions, so you want to find out, maybe you own your own home, you have your own home, or if you have a loan or what have you, you want to find out. The banks are also providing deferred payments on mortgages, and they're doing other things. So you want to find out exactly what they're doing, and my hope is that you would have already had a conversation with someone at the bank to find out. And I want to say here that don't take hearsay, because when I say hearsay, don't just take it from somebody. Go and find out yourself, because people's interpretations of things are different. So I may like, for example, I'll give you a great example. I read that the, the president of the US, Donald Trump, the article said that he is suspending temporarily suspending immigration to the US. And then after that, I saw a couple posts on Facebook, and people were starting to talk about it, the economy, this, that. And in a few of them, they left out the word temporarily. So they were just running with, he suspended immigration to the US. And this is just an example. This is just an example of how people take, and not, but I don't think that it's bad intention, right? But people have a way of leaving out certain critical and key elements. And so the article said clearly temporary, but everybody's running with, oh, he's suspending immigration, da da da, and everybody has a thought, an opinion, and a Facebook post about it. Okay. So please, back to my point, find out for yourself. Listen to the government mandated authorities in who are disseminating the information. So call your bank, find out for yourself. Okay. And I also have seen, and some banks are offering loans. Don't take any loans. You don't need a loan right now. You don't need a loan right now. Remember, the focus is on the most basic needs, and the focus is surviving, which is why I thought I spelled those out. Is surviving and sacrifice. And sacrifice means that giving up temporary luxuries to accommodate and to adapt to the new normal, right? Until we can get through this. Okay? So you don't need a loan, because at the end of the day, you're still gonna have to pay back the bank. You're still gonna have to pay the interest payments. And what you don't want is, when we're coming out of this, when things start to get better, because things are going to get better, nothing lasts all the time. It just seems like it's long because we are actually going through it. But you don't want to be coming out of a pandemic with extra burden on you, like, oh my God, I shouldn't have taken that loan, or I have this to pay, because I am pretty sure that when this is over, like the banks and these lending institutions, they're going to be like, okay, you have this. They've already, some of them have already deferred stuff for 3 months or what have you, but they're going to want their money eventually because it's a business, right? So if you don't have to, and as much as possible, don't take a loan. All right, because we need very few things to be comfortable, and you would have seen this. You would have seen this during the weeks that we were safe at home when there was no activity. The only thing that was really necessary is for us to be comfortable and for us to eat. That's it. Number 4 is your utility bills. Now, on that, I want to say we're home all the time, and where possible, use less of. Don't waste stuff like water. Don't waste water. Don't unnecessarily use the electricity, although we do need it for a lot of stuff. Persons are watching Netflix and doing all sorts of things, but where you can conserve. And so with that, I want to say that in my country, a lot of the utility bills and payments have been deferred, right? Skelec, which is the electricity service provider here on the island, they've deferred payments for 3 months, and to persons who are affected. Now, if you haven't been affected, still pay your bill. That's the other thing. If persons who are not affected might be like, oh, well, I should, don't. Be ahead. You're in a privileged position. Use it wisely. You should be, for those of you who haven't been affected, you're still getting a paycheck, use this time wisely. You can save even more, right? You should be saving even more because you should be using less and cutting back. A lot of the activities that we're accustomed to has been suspended, so use less. So look into your utility bills, find out again, don't rely on hearsay, find out for yourself and how it impacts you, okay? Because nobody is going to take care of you better than you. The other thing too is all other, and this is number 5, all other lending institutions like courts, courts is a furniture and appliance store. Go into them, speak to them, and find out how it affects you. Because at the end of the day, I don't really think that, and I could be wrong, but I doubt it, that any company is going to just come in right now and take back their stuff, or the electricity company is just going to take off your lights, or no, we're going through a pandemic, and this is why that should provide you with a sense of relief that your only job right now is to focus on surviving and sacrificing. How can I survive? Where can I make additional sacrifices? Okay. If you're renting, and lastly, if you're renting on these things, if you're renting, have a conversations with your landlord. I know some landlords have decided they're only going to take a portion of the rent, which is great, and some, there are other arrangements. And so have a conversation if you're renting with your landlord about the situation, because again, I doubt that you just can't put out people during this time out of a home. It will not go down very well. And so the focus again should be on sacrifice and surviving and your most basic needs. All right. And I really hope that this has lent some perspective to you. And then, so now let me just jump into some ideas and thoughts I had around this, some tips. So back to the food element. So food is most important, and many persons panic shopped. Many persons were just like, and they did it because people didn't know what was going on, and persons did it as well because things were changing so rapidly. Things were changing so rapidly. One minute, it was business as usual. The next minute, we were on um, a relaxed curfew. Then we were on partial curfew. Then we were on a full lockdown, a full 24-hour curfew, and things changed rapidly. And so you found that when people went to the supermarket, they just gathered stuff because one, persons didn't want to be out there like all the time, because every time you go outside your house you put yourself at risk and so forth. So it's an adjusting and adapting. But what I want to say to food is, i I would suggest that you create a 3-week menu. Create a 3-week menu for yourself, and one that you can rotate. And the reason behind this is because you can now manage and control what you're eating when. And so this ties into when you go to the grocery store, you know exactly what to put up. And I can tell you this works because even before this pandemic, I started out, I was one of those persons that I don't know what I want to eat until the day of. And so I might be at work when I was working, and I would be like, you know what, I think I'm going to have this for dinner tonight. And then I'll go to the supermarket and I'll pick up what I need, right? And that's what I did. But then this year, in the latter part of last year, I started it, I fell off. And then this year, I made a commitment to myself. I said, you know what, I'm going to be much better at this. And so I started out by creating a menu. And how I started that is what I cooked for the last few weeks, I recorded it. And I recorded what I would want to eat for the upcoming weeks. And so that was a guide to help me. So when I got to the supermarket and I made a list, the list really worked, right? For those of us who pick up additional, I'm guilty. I am so guilty of that. But the list really worked and the menu really worked. And I feel like during this time when you have such, yes, a stimulus check, to manage, like in our country, it's 1,000. For the persons who are on reduced hours, I think if I understood it correctly, I'm not even sure because I didn't pay attention to the reduced hours. I think they're gonna supplement it. Okay, but you need to manage that money well, and you're not gonna eat $1,000 worth of groceries every month, okay, or every week, I should say. Every week you're not going to eat $1,000 worth of groceries. So create that menu because you already have items in your house. And so when you go to the grocery store, you could just refer to your list. You could see, okay, I'm going to cook this week, I'm going to cook this next week, I'm going to, you can really play with that. Okay, so make a list so that you don't overspend. The other tip I had was start a business. And you might say, start a business, we're supposed to be practicing social distancing, blah, 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 this and that. It's just a tip and it's just an idea, it's just a suggestion. And here's where I think that there's an opportunity still to make money. Even in a crisis, there's an opportunity to make money. So each of us have skills. Right? Each of us have skills. Now, some of us are fortunate in that we have hands-on skills. So, for example, persons want their hair done. Some hairdressers may not be open. If you are somebody who loves to braid, who have that ability to do that, then why not? No, I want to say that you have to still keep yourself safe. You still have to do all that. And so wear your masks, have the person wear a mask, get a hand sanitizer, do what you have to do, keep your hand out your face, and when you're done, you just, you either make sure that you put your clothes directly in the wash to be washed, or wash them one time, right? But people want their hair done. People want their hair done. People at home and people want their hair done. Everybody doesn't have locks like me, so you can capitalize on it. And again, this is just a suggestion, right? So use your skills in that area. The other option too is delivery. So if you have a car, there's a lot of persons that they don't want to stand in lines. Now, our federation is just opening back up, and countries do have to open up, because we have to find a way to get commerce. If we can't survive as a country, as a federation, if there's no commerce happening, right? So things have to happen, businesses have to open. So, but there are people who are privileged, there are people who are working from home, there are people who just don't, they're elderly people who just, they're in the, even, they don't even have to be elderly. They could be in that vulnerable population group, right? And they may need bills to be paid. Maybe they're not online savvy, right? They may need stuff done. And if you have a car, or even if you don't have a car, maybe you're willing to, maybe you can offer that service. So that's an option, whether it's groceries, whether it's bill paying. And again, you try to keep that distance, you put on your masks. When you finish with that, you wanna wash your clothes, put your clothes to be washed. And the last thing really is the support of the education system. So right now the schools are not open, and I doubt if they're going to open anytime soon, because I believe that certain businesses, they have to put the infrastructure, they have to put procedures and processes in place for how things are going to be right now until we get through this pandemic. And so right now, a lot of school kids are home. They have to learn from home. They have to learn remotely. The work is online. There's a lot of parents that need help. There's a lot of parents that they really can't. They're not. How do I say? They are not in that space to help their kids with their schoolwork. Okay, and so that's an avenue. If you have a skill, if you're patient, if you can utilize that. Okay, now of course you're gonna have to figure out how you're gonna do it, whether you're gonna do it remotely, whether you're going to have them come by your house, whether you're going to have to figure out how you're going to get it done, and at the same time keep yourself and the person safe. So these are just 3 ways, and I'm sure there are others. These are just 3 ways and 3 avenues that you can capitalize on. And I would encourage you to think about ways that you can capitalize on it. It's not all gloom and doom. It's not all gloom and doom. And it is additional revenue for you. Now, if you were one of those persons that could have saved, right? Could have saved. And a saving is a saving, even if it's $500, okay? I would suggest you use your savings as a last resort, like at the very, very last resort. Try and work with what you have, because, like I said, everybody's going through this together. Try and work with what you have. Try and work with your stimulus check, budget it, figure out how you're going to do it, cater to your most basic needs, and I feel like you're going to be fine. And manage, if you have high blood pressure, manage that, manage your health, because it doesn't make it doesn't make sense to stress out yourself. It doesn't make sense. And so I've come to the end of my chat. The very, very last thing I want to say to you is, while you're going through this period is take a note, write it down, take a mental note, not a mental note because you'll probably forget when everything is good again. It's just how we're designed. But take a note of how you have managed during this time, especially with regards to food, how you budget, how you are coping, what ideas you come up with, because coming out of this, you're going to be in a better position. In that, you would have taught yourself how to manage with less. Okay, and so when you get back into that job, you're already on a good footing, if you understand what I'm trying to say. And so there's always a silver lining in the cloud. There's always a silver lining. And like I said, I wasn't going to come on here and tell you, oh, you should save for a rainy day because this is it, this is the rain. It makes no sense. But how do you take what you're given and make it work for you? All right. And so I really hope that you enjoyed this chat. I really hope that something I've said resonated with you. Maybe you gained an idea on what you can do. You gained an idea on additional revenue that you can make. Maybe you start to think about it. Maybe it's something that you have hidden, that you never told anybody about, but you had a passion for. I really hope, whatever it is, I really hope that you are able, that this episode is really, that really helps you. And so I will see you next week on another Wavelength Wednesday. And as usual, share with friends and our family. And if you need to be coached, please contact me. I am more than willing to help you. Right now, persons may be updating resumes. I do have coaching packages. I do have my Jumpstart Your Career coaching packages that can assist you. Whatever sphere it is, let me know. Send me an email at hellowaveny@thepeoplebrandskn.com. And it is an absolute pleasure as always. And I'll see you next week. Bye.